Shall I see us in? I'm guessing we're live now.
Yeah.
We're live, I think. I don't know. Hello, everybody. You're watching Those Aren't Biscuits, episode 115, or listening to, when I finally edit this in about 6 months' time. How are you all? This is your favorite pop culture podcast. I am Owen Adams, and I'm joined today by the wonderful Jonathan Cadotte, who's with me every time we do this. I don't know why I said joined today, like you're my guest. You're my lovely co-host. How are you?
Yeah. I'm doing just fine.
Just fine?
It's a little unusual. I'm not used to having this day off.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, some stuff happened at work, and I had to switch up my schedule a little bit. And basically, I just put my days off one back, pretty much. I had to work a 6-day week last week, and then this week I only had to work a 4-day week. So it works out.
Oh, fair enough.
But it's weird because I had that moment where I woke up in the morning, knowing that it's Tuesday, and going, I should be at work. Why am I not at work? Like, oh, it's weird how that your like personal schedule really starts to fuck with your head when you're not following it, you know?
Right. You get settled. The rhythms settle in.
Yeah. You know, the rhythm takes control. Moves your body.
If you are new here, everybody at home, this is a beautiful podcast we do every week. Did we do one last week? I feel like we missed one.
Was it last week or the week before? We missed one week in the last 2 weeks.
Maybe. We have been missing a few lately. It's been kind of a crazy time on my end. But such is life.
Yeah.
I think everything's pretty much set up here. I've got the links sent out. We currently do this podcast as a live show and as a podcast. So we do take questions if you guys want to send them our way. That's on the screen right now if you guys want to send anything in. Other than that, I think that's pretty much everything. So, I have something I would like to tell you, which sounds more ominous.
Oh no.
It sounds ominous, like I have news, but it's not. It's something I want to talk about that I've been reading this morning. And I want to get it out straight away first, because I think it's great and I don't want to forget. But I've only just heard about this myself, so have you heard about this TV show Eden?
No.
Okay. It's a British TV show. And it started last year. I'm getting a little bit of echo, by the way. You know what's causing that?
I don't, but I'll turn down my headset volume. Maybe that's it.
Alright, let's try that. So I do apologize. A little sidetrack there. Alright. So I have been reading about this. So there's a British TV show called Eden, right? And it is the setup was it's a reality show, right? Where a group of people would go away and live in a complex in the Highlands of Scotland for a year with no connection to the outside world, right? In a self-sustaining base, that kind of thing,
They have no idea about Brexit or Trump or anything.
Oh, it gets better than that. So they've got no connection to the outside world, and it's going to be a weekly show. You know the kind of thing, a little bit like Survivor, but less artificial, more like, oh, they're actually trying to survive and all this stuff. Except 3 weeks into the show, it's not doing so great. It starts last year, right? The end of mid 2016. Except 3 weeks in, nobody's watching it. So they cancel it. But they want to sort of preserve the money they've invested in establishing this complex where people are going to live for a year. So they decide they'll keep filming, not tell any of the people inside that the show has been cancelled, and use the footage to make a documentary at the end of the year. So these people have all come out recently having found that Britain's, left the leaving the European Union. Donald Trump has become president. And the show they all thought they were on for the last year got cancelled 3 weeks in, and they've been living in this complex for no reason.
Oh my God, I really hope that their terms and agreement contracts were like rock solid for the producer's sake, you know?
Can you imagine coming out to that?
I'm like, I'm going back, but the show's over. I'm going back.
Yeah. This is our base now.
There's no show. I'm well aware there's no show. I'm going back.
Take me in. Freebie. It's funny because something similar happened a few years ago with the Space Cadets one. Did you see this one? Where they told everybody that they were going away to be space cadets and that they were going to be in a rocket, and then they put them in a simulator and told them that they'd gone to live on Mars. And actually they were just in like just in the countryside in like an airtight base with no windows.
How did they convince them that they made it there so quickly?
Oh, I don't know. I think they actually just had them there for like 6 months. I think they actually just had them rocketing their way, pretending to be in the ship for a long time. Basically, we like to run reality shows that want to, you know, break down people's fundamental understandings of reality. You know, it's like The Matrix.
Like American reality shows are generally like, we're going to put the most volatile people we can into a confined area, and let's see what happens. Your guys' reality shows are like, let's see how far we can push someone till their concept of self completely snaps.
Right.
And they are traumatized for the next couple years as they come to terms with
Well, do you guys get Darren Brown shows over there?
I don't know.
Okay, so Darren Brown is he's basically a magician, but his whole angle is his magic is all about psychology, complex psychology that manipulates people to think certain things, right? He does these shows where he's like, I want to see if I can take this group of old ladies and make them think they're coming on one sort of like training course, but subtly put them in situations that gradually prepare them for an event we're going to set up later on to see if they will rob a bank in an improvised situation. So he constructs these elaborate ruses where one person or two people will be actual genuine members of the public, but for weeks and weeks and weeks they're surrounded by nothing but actors, and you know, like the Truman Show. And then the idea is to put them into these very specific situations and see if by the end of the TV show, in a highly contrived situation, they can generate an unexpected outcome. Like he did one where he took a guy who was very quiet, the kind of person who wouldn't sort of stand up and speak in a room if everyone else is talking, you know, that kind of, and over a couple of weeks, contrived a situation where he ended up having to land a plane.
Oh my.
Right. He didn't really land a plane because he hypnotized him early on in the process. He told him he was going for a hypnosis session, and then they went up in an actual plane, and then he put him to sleep and took him to the cockpit of a simulator and woke him up again and told him he was on a plane that was going to crash, and if no one else took the flight controls, they were all going to die. He had to land the plane safely, apparently. I don't know how real they are. I think there's an element of TV theater to them. But
because that's the thing, as soon as you introduce the concept of, like, hypnosis into it,
right,
I'm immediately like suspicious because I'm aware of how hypnosis works.
Right,
it's not mind control. Oh my god! 1 second.
No problem. This is gonna be good, guys. Live streaming John's latest conversation. Let's hope it's an interesting one. Oh, he just came back. Hello. Yeah. No, I should say right off the bat, I am very skeptical of how sincere Darren Brown's programs are. Aside from anything, that particular one I was telling you about, there's a scene with a really obvious fake train that they were trying to tell the audience was a guy tied to the train tracks. But the premise of the show is that he's actually doing these things. Do you know what I mean? So even if it's even if it's not real, and I don't think it is, the concept is still, look, we're gonna mess this guy up.
Right. Well, I do actually like the idea of like that I don't know, like that Mr. Miyagi effect, where it's like, we're gonna put you guys in these like classes and tell you, oh, you're in this knitting class or whatever,
Right.
and then uh, the lessons there's nothing to do with knitting, at all, but then put you in a situation where you could possibly adapt what you've learned in those other classes to
Right.
the situation.
Well,
Like,
you'll really enjoy the
that
one
seems
where Darren
fascinating.
Brown encourages people to apply wax and then remove wax for several hours. It's
Right, yeah.
it was his most gripping episode.
Oh, I can imagine. Just um, was there a substantial bonsai cutting section?
The thing I like the most about the Karate Kid movies, just to get into that subject for a second, is that the actor who plays Mr. Miyagi speaks perfect, flawless English, was raised
Right.
and born in America, and lived there his entire life. And, and what role do they give him? The most Japanese man to have ever been on TV.
Right. I remember him talking about that actually once, where he didn't mind it so much because what he did, even though he could speak fluent fluent English, perfect accent, everything, he grew up around people who did have that broken English.
Did he also
So-
say, I really didn't mind so much because, and then he feels in his pocket and gets out his bank statements from the year the Karate Kid came out, starts rolling them out. He's like, if you see here, for every comical mispronunciation I added, another 0 just seemed to get added onto the end of my bank balance.
It's weird.
Just a digit just seemed to increase more and more.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? Language is hard.
I was raffing all the way to the bank. Right.
Here, don't mind me while I reese out this mansion.
It's a little bit like, did you ever see the old Charlie Chan movies?
Yeah, oh man.
They were pretty bad. But there is one where he explains that he can actually speak English very well, but it disarms people if they see what they think is an idiot Chinaman. I always thought that was
Right, I mean,
interesting.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I mean,
it's a retcon, but
yeah, I mean, it's the same tactic that they used in Columbo,
right. Yeah, the
without
one
the
where Columbo
racial-
puts on a really bad Chinese accent is definitely a classic.
I mean, that was Mickey Rooney's explanation for his character in
Right.
Tiffany's.
Yeah.
People are disarmed by the idea of a normal landlord. So
What you don't see is that he is a private detective in a lot of deleted scenes from Breakfast at Tiffany's that never made it. Scott Thorpick in the chat says Carumbo.
Oh man! All right, we should stop with that, or else it could get real bad.
Have you ever heard that the ongoing debate about whether Columbo has a glass eye?
No.
Okay,
You know
so
why? I don't care about Columbo.
okay, so Peter
Columbo
Falk.
was that show that was on like
Columbo's
midday Sundays.
you will
when I
not
wasn't at.
You will not be mean about Columbo. I always liked that his wife got a
Watch me.
spin-off briefly. But, okay, so Peter Falk has a glass eye, right?
Miss Columbo?
Yeah, it was called Mrs. Columbo. It was great.
Are you serious?
Yeah, legitimate. It was like one season, Mrs. Columbo, a spin-off of Columbo. So Peter Falk has a glass eye, right?
Sure.
What I want to know is, does Columbo have a glass eye?
Just because Peter Falk does?
Right. Or is Peter Falk's glass eye playing the role of a real eye?
Yeah, they actually paid the eye SAG wages. No, I mean, no, he doesn't. Because unless it's explicitly stated in the show that, oh, Columbo has a glass eye. I mean, because I know exactly what the counter argument is. Oh, what about actors who have prosthetic legs? Their characters have prosthetic legs, and sure, but those are always explicitly visible things, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, okay, I watch a show called Superstore, and in it there's a character, I think his name's Garrett. He's in a wheelchair. The actor is not paralyzed. So it's like, oh, is Garrett able to walk? No, he's not. He's paralyzed in the show. That's his character.
Unless it's a plot twist.
Yeah, sure.
No, I see what you're saying.
No, characters exist 100% independent of the actor. That's the point.
Here's another related question. Beth and I yesterday were watching Return of the Jedi, right?
Okay.
And something struck me, right? Do you remember at the end of Empire Strikes Back after Luke's lost his hand?
Is Mark Hamill missing a hand?
No, but it is related to that. Okay. At the end of Empire, Luke loses his hand, right?
Okay.
And they replace his hand with a robot hand, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you look at that hand, they also make it clear that that hand is like a perfect replica of a human hand, and it feels pain.
Wearing the glove?
And well, that's true. But it also, I think he's wearing the glove because he gets it shot at the start of Jedi, you know. But that's like the most amazing prosthetic in the world, right? Mm-hmm. In a world where you could make prosthetic hands that were presumably like stronger and better than real hands, right? Mm-hmm. And can feel pain and look and feel just like normal human hands. At a certain age, wouldn't you just remove everybody's hands and give them the fake hands?
Well, I mean, that isn't that the question we're facing now with these?
No.
We are, because like things like that are starting to exist. There was a famous guy in the Olympics. He ended up shooting his wife.
Oscar Pistorius.
Yes. Ran in the actual Olympics with a prosthetic leg.
Right.
And the debate about whether he should be or not is that leg actually gives him more spring.
I totally get that argument, but my issue is, yes, he has an advantage with his prosthetic legs, right? But he also loses something. He loses articulation, he loses a sense of touch, right?
Sure.
The Luke Skywalker hand doesn't lose those things. It has as much articulation, and it also has a sense of touch. Because they prick him with little pins, you know? In that scene in Empire. Wouldn't you just remove the hands?
Well, I mean, is that suggesting he's feeling pain, or is it just like a reflex thing?
That's a good question, but I think in the film it's supposed to communicate that hand, and then when it gets shot later, he feels it. But it's just interesting. If you had prosthetics that could replicate the entire experience of having a hand, would you voluntarily remove your hand, do you think? Do you think that would become standard practice to just replace people's hands?
Well, I mean, it's the same. That's Star Wars, right? It's the same thing where it's like, okay, well, we have these lightsabers, right, that can cut through anything and can slice through anything. Like, why aren't they using these like for industrial purposes? You know?
Yeah, it's true. If it's so easy to make a lightsaber, why do you need a mine, you know, or a drill, or all kinds of things.
Right. I mean, or like, why aren't like weapons, like actual like guns, being powered by this same technology?
Right. Like, why doesn't the Death Star just produce a big lightsaber that they just push through the planet?
Well, I mean, isn't that the idea behind Rogue One? They
I suppose
that the Death Star is powered by lightsaber technology.
So if they hadn't have blown up the Death Star, would the end result have been that all the planets would have got new defenses where they get fitted every planet with a little robot arm holding a lightsaber? Like,
What I'm suggesting is that had the Death Star not been blown up, we were like this close from like Gundams, and you know, just
sword fighting.
Yeah, just giant robots sword fighting in space. Like the Millennium Falcon is literally just a falcon with a sword. You know.
I'd watch that.
Fuck yeah, I would. But speaking of things I have been watching that exist, I actually wanted to bring this up. Have you watched that show Chewing Gum?
No, I've never even heard of that show, Chewing Gum.
Alright, it's a Netflix show, and it's set in London. It's all British characters. And I've watched quite a bit of like British television in my day. Enough where I feel like, and the fact that I on a weekly basis I speak to someone with a British accent.
Right, fair enough.
Right. This is one of the hardest shows I've ever sat through and like tried to understand what the fuck they're saying. It's like and it's funny because like I have the subtitles up even, and even the subtitles get all kind of confused sometimes. Like like what's this fucking word, bruv? Like,
oh, it's like bruv, brother.
Yeah. But like, this one character like says that like after every sentence, she's just like,
"You feel me,
like,
bruv?"
Oh yeah, then like yeah, it's like you gotta sit on his face, bruv. I'm like what? What?
Yeah, it's like bro.
Okay. And then buff, right? Because over here, buff means like strong,
Right.
build, muscular. But one of the first things they do is they introduce this one character, and the narrator goes, like, oh, that's my best friend. She's the buffest girl I know. So I'm thinking like, oh shit, she's like super strong. But that's not it. Like they're clearly referring to something else, and I don't know what it is.
I don't think I can help you with that one.
Oh man. But I mean, I've watched about 4 episodes of the show, 5 episodes, and it is legit funny. It is a really funny show. The premise behind it is this girl who has been in a relationship for, I think, like 7-8 years with like a devoutly Christian man. Who
That's just funny inherently.
Will not have sex with her. Will not kiss her. Will not do anything like that because he claims he's devoutly Christian. His mother or her mother is devoutly Christian. Her sister is devoutly Christian, and she wants to get laid. That sort of thing. Like, but she's been sheltered her entire life, so she has no clue how to like go about it. So she keeps on taking all this like advice from all these people who live in her same estate home. And is that the right term? Estate home? It's
estate
like
home.
Big apartment.
Estate or like is it a block of flats?
Yeah, I mean kind of run down, almost
Council
projects.
estate.
Yeah. Okay. So she's taking all this advice, and then going about it in like the most literal way possible, and it never works. Because like she decides to leave her boyfriend. She immediately starts seeing this other guy, and her friend tells her that if to get what she wants, she just has to sit on his face. And she goes, "What? Yeah, if he won't open his mouth to do his job, you just hold his nose." So she's with him, and then she just like sits on his face with like all her clothes still on, and it starts like grinding on him.
As you would.
He's desperately trying to tell her like he's not into it, and she just like holds his nose down.
I might have to give it a look. I think here that's a Channel 4 show. It might be being distributed by Netflix over there. I don't think it's on Netflix, but I have it online. I think they have an online service. I'll give it a look.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's just a lot of funny things that happen in that show. One of the running jokes is whenever the main character has a sex dream, she's having wet dreams because when she has sex dreams, she has nosebleeds. So that's what she thinks a wet dream is. Yeah, so whenever she's like in like sexy situations, like she always has to like wipe her nose away because it starts bleeding. No, it's pretty good. It's just, man, there's some thick accents.
I can really recommend a show. It's not a good show, but I think it got a little bit overplayed, I suppose. And it went to 2 movies, and the 2 movies were terrible. But there's a British show called The In-Betweeners, and it is... I know
The In-Betweeners.
I did not like it when I first saw it. And then the more I watched it, the more I realized it was everybody I knew from school, you know? Perfectly rendered.
Right.
I think they actually attempted to make an American version of that, although I don't really know how that turned out.
Yeah, they did. It did not work well at all. It bombed immediately. Well, like what I was going to say about this chewing gum show is when I first started watching it, my first opinion of it is like, okay, it's another one of these shows where it's like, we're going to flip things on its ear and we're going to have women doing this gross out comedy, right?
That's pretty common in Britain, to be honest.
Right. Well, it's the same thing as like Bridesmaids, you know, that
right.
sort of thing. But what I realized while watching it is that I think it's actually supposed to be kind of a send-up of those shows, because what you get is the cast is primarily female,
right?
And you hear them talking very explicitly about sex, but so far the other direction of explicit, where it's like no one actually really talks that way. And because of that, it leaves all these situations of this girl who is just naive to the world, just fucking things up and not understanding anything that's going on around her.
I will have to give it a look.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean,
I'm gonna have to give it a look just to see how many words you aren't going to be able to translate.
there's a ton.
I'll tell you one British show you should check out. If you can find it, if it's on Netflix and it's made by Channel 4, who make a lot of good shows and a lot of crap. So it's one of those things where you have to, every time they start a new show that looks good, you have to take a gamble and be like, okay, is this going to be atrocious or is this going to be gold? You know. But if you can find it, I really recommend a show called Utopia, which is, it's a thriller series.
Have a kind of a naming convention going on lately.
It's a
Eden, Utopia.
It's
a show called Paradise coming.
It's a thriller series, a thriller comedy, which is not a common combination. But it's about, I say comedy, it gets pretty dark by the end, but it starts off pretty funny. And it's about these group of people who come together online to discuss this legendary comic. The rumor was written by a guy who went to live in a mental asylum. And the story is that this comic went to one issue and then was immediately pulled from the shelves, and or I think it was like a graphic novel, all trace of it was removed. And nobody knows where to find it, right? But it's this
the Mobius game.
Right. And it's this legendary story where everyone who ever saw it got killed, and all trace of it got erased. And they start to find out that there is a they start to get word that there's a copy of it, right? So they meet up to get together and to share information, and what they find is, like, one of the characters is a kid who they thought he was a millionaire who lives in the city and drives a Ferrari, but he's a 12-year-old who has just a shit life. There's, just a nerd, a couple of normal characters, a couple of weird ones, just a mix of these different characters who come together with this interest, but they all have a reason for trying to seek out this comic, and they come together because word is someone's found a copy, or a copy's turned up at a local store, only the person who owns the store basically gets horribly murdered by people attempting to track down this comic. And so what happens is they start off as sort of nerds and enthusiasts trying to figure out what this comic is, and eventually get caught up in this genuine conspiracy because it's, not to give too much away, but it turns out the person did write the comic from a mental asylum about things that he wasn't supposed to talk about, and it has hidden information about powerful people. And it's actually really good. Really, really good in that it feels like a tribute to the weird kind of conspiratorial British comics of the 70s, like the Alan Moore type stuff.
Right.
But it's also very, very modern and very British and very geeky in lots of good ways. It's a really good show. Really worth watching.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. No, I'm sorry. I was looking at the chat here, and we got a few things real quick. Or Chaos says, going back to our Star Wars talk, wouldn't that explain Grievous? He replaced his entire body. Yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest issues with like the prequels as opposed like the original trilogy, especially when it comes to like bridging that gap. Like, you have Grievous here, who is essentially a robot, but a very functional robot, like sleek technology, something like that. And in the end of that same fucking movie, they have Darth Vader, which is this clunky piece of shit cyborg, like, I'm sorry, like, compared to everything else that you've seen in the prequels, there's no reason Darth Vader should look like fucking Darth Vader. He should have, like, switches on his chest,
Also, isn't it kind of weird that, like, isn't it a little on the nose that they were like, what covering should we give him? Should we give him, like, a prosthetic that replaces his face, or should we give him, like, a hood with a mask? No! Big skull! Big skull!
Yeah, big old skull.
Something I noticed when I rewatched Rogue One is, did the Empire just, like, overnight, right? Did they just go, well, they reprogrammed one of those Imperial droids, decommission them all! We must have no more for the next...
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because you never see one of those things again. And yet there's, like, 5 in that movie.
Alright, just all this stuff in... I mean, we've talked about this at length, but it's just... Like those destroyer droids with the shields and shit.
Yeah, those things better
those
than
are
every...
incredibly useful. Like,
yeah.
Why do we give that up?
Right, like, you can kind of see why they gave up the battle droids, right? That makes sense, because thematically that works. Because A, the battle droids weren't that great. They went down pretty easily. And B, there's this theme that works thematically of, well, the Empire doesn't give a shit about people's lives, so they just make people do the job, right? Fine, conscript people. Right. That works, fine. But, like, why... why did they get rid of those gyroscopic little starfighters that can zip around and rotate around the cockpits and things, and replace them with, the TIE fighters that just get shot pretty easily?
Yeah. And, just jumping again, real quick.
No, it's fine. Chat away.
Yeah. No, Scott Throwback mentioned something here. I think in reference to Paradise, or not paradise, Utopia.
Utopia.
Excuse me. Uh, but he mentions like marble hornets, which is apparently on YouTube, and he says it's kind of similar to "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared."
I don't know marble hornets. I do know Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to bring this up. Well, now I do. Now you mention it. But
The idea it was sat there going, okay, I hope someone mentions Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared soon. Pretty soon.
yeah, I've been sitting on this for a while. But have you noticed that there's been kind of a kind of an increase in these YouTube shows that are kind of like, we're gonna pretend to be something else?
Yeah, it's become more common, I think. Like
yeah, because you got like the don't hug me, I'm scared, and then there's what's the one Pookie or Moxie.
I hope it's Pookie.
Oh, but it's ideas
Just keep
like
saying
this.
words.
It's hi, I'm something. Hi, I'm.
Sounds Jewish.
Hi, yeah.
It's Chaim Pookie, the Jewish puppet.
But have you? Do you know what I'm talking about though?
Not a fucking clue.
Like the pop singer.
Nope.
Okay, so it's this thing that's on YouTube, and it's kind of freaky. But it's just a series of these videos, and it's all centered around like this pop singer who always like, hi, I'm something. Hi, I'm Daisy. No, it's not Daisy. And it's always like this really like standard shit where it's like, hey, haters are gonna hate. Don't worry about what they say. And you get like a series of these, and they're only like 15 to 30 seconds long. But then they start like cutting things in, where it's like there's one where it says like the new year, new me, and she's like, hey, I think it's time that you see a new me. And all of a sudden it's like, she goes, oh no, and like her nose starts to bleed, and she just disappears, and a new one pops up like, hi, I'm.
It sounds deeply distressing.
Like, yeah, it's really unnerving.
Well, did you?
Yes, there we go. Thank you, Scott. Hi, I'm Poppy.
I might have to have a look at that. Similarly, did you see the YouTube channel that was about a wife's account of her husband's obsession with Slender Man? And it starts off like a diary, and gradually it becomes clear that it's a work of fiction. Like, it gradually becomes clear that it's actually a piece of drama, and it becomes more and more like a horror story, and you start to realize after a while that it's fake. Is it that kind of thing?
Right. It is similar to it, but it's not quite as overt.
Right.
I mean, like, okay, the game theorist did a video on her, and they point out like there's a lot of like symbolism hidden in her videos to like the Illuminati and Satan worship and like Baphomet. Yeah. But no, it's that stuff is really cool because I remember in the early days, the really early days of YouTube. Maybe some of the people in chat remember this, but Lonely Girl 15. You remember that?
Yeah.
This
started
was
off as
fascinating.
Started off as a diary, turned out to be again like a work of fiction that they were building up.
Right. I remember people getting legitimately pissed off about it because a lot of people like kind of.
It was the first time people were fooled.
Right. And like because it kept on getting like weirder and weirder, and like there's like her family's a member of a cult, and there's some weird shit going on, and apparently she has ties to like the Armageddon and all this stuff, and yeah, I never watched it myself, but when it was all said and done, reading the accounting of the channel was just fascinating to me. Like,
yeah,
that is a stroke of brilliance that I think all these other channels like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, Poppy, Salad Fingers, things like that, I think they're all kind of trying to latch onto the same sort of thing.
Well, Salad Fingers was a cartoon.
Well, yeah. Well, so is Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, really. But
See, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, I feel like belongs more to the Too Many Cooks school of...
Too Many Cooks? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like to
Right.
me.
But it's subversion. You know,
Right.
it's all based on subversion.
So I went to the High and Poppy Wikipedia article, and it doesn't mention any of this. It's got a remarkably sincere Wikipedia article, which makes me wonder what the
Right.
story is there.
Yeah, no, I think that's something maybe we should do. We should just sit down and watch those videos because they're not very long.
What now?
No, not right now, but we'll
No, I'm gonna say.
revisit.
Doing a podcast, John.
Yeah, welcome to Those Are Biscuits, where we sit down and watch things that you're not.
Yeah, we'll do it in preparation for the next one.
Okay, I've been talking for a while. Hi, Gavin, by the way. What you been up to, man?
Well, I finally caught up with something I have been meaning to watch for a while. I didn't really get into the first time, but I decided to give it another chance. I watched this week the entirety of Rick and Morty, which is a show... I watched the first couple of episodes and I didn't like it.
Right,
And...
I watched the first episode and I didn't latch onto it.
Right, but you hear people talk about it so much, you know, you feel like, well, there must be something I'm missing, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I got into it a little bit more. Because I get it now. You know what I mean? I think what doesn't come across if you watch the first couple of episodes on their own is that unlike a lot of cartoons, even Adult Swim cartoons, this is not a show that forgets its previous episodes. It's very episodic, but just to give an example, if people haven't seen Rick and Morty, the premise of the show is a kid called Morty travels with his grandfather, Rick, and his grandfather is... It's very similar, actually, in premise to Doctor Who. You've got the Doctor and a companion, and they travel through planets and dimensions. The difference is Rick is just a jaded, cynical, miserable old man who hates everybody. And Morty is a coward and doesn't really want to be there. In an early episode, the premise of the episode is Morty wants a girl to fall in love with him and he wants Rick to make him a love potion. And Rick does. But the girl has the flu, so... Because it's contagious, she manages to take the virus that he's given her so she falls in love with him and spread it to everyone on Earth. So everyone's in love with him. And they all start really aggressively trying to pursue him. So he goes to Rick for a solution and Rick says, well, I gave it... the DNA I used was mole rat DNA, because they mate for life. So if I mix some mantis DNA, which mates once and then just kills its mate, that's the exact opposite. If I mix that in and give everybody that instead, it should balance it out. But it just turns everybody into half mole rat, half human, half mantis monsters that all are in love with Morty and want to kill him afterwards. It turns everyone in the human race to it. And ultimately, he's like, well, how are you going to get us out of this, Rick? And he's like, it's alright, Morty, I've got a solution. He just opens a... he opens a portal to a dimension that where he found a solution, but died immediately afterwards. And he just says, right, we're going to live here now. The Rick and Morty from this dimension are dead, so we're just going to live here from now on, right? And it's a real Get Out ending, right? Like, we're back, initial premise. And yet the show, in episodes in the future, has referenced that and used that as integral parts of the plot 5 or 6 times. Like, later on they need a replacement for Rick's portal gun, and they get it by digging up the dead body of the original Rick in the universe that they replaced to take it from it. And so, what starts off in the show, what you watch one week and you think, oh, okay, that's a clever, stupid joke way of getting back to the beginning, often turns out to be actually genuine elaboration of a building mythos. And I actually really recommend you go back to it and get past the first couple of episodes, because they are actually, I think, pretty weak. When you get into the show, it's one of the most actually astonishingly bold examples of a show just being like, get to it, get into this universe, and this is the universe now, right? It does things with the show's mythology and with the show's continuity that you expect of shows in its like third, fourth, fifth season in its first. You know, and just it makes this huge universe immediately. Like in a fairly early episode, they get visited by the Council of Ricks, which is a collection of hundreds upon thousands of Ricks from other dimensions that have banded together to form a government of Ricks to protect each other. And the Rick from the main world is one of the few who hasn't joined, so he's considered to be like an outcast. And they establish quite early on that they all have their own Morty, and when they're walking down the streets, there are other Ricks trying to hawk Morty merchandise, like, do you want a fancy little t-shirt for your Morty? And in this grand society of Ricks, Mortys are basically slaves and pets. And it plays with these kind of weird concepts that break down the fundamental premise of the show almost from the first few episodes. And I've never seen a show really do that. It just goes in and says, this is the setup, and then immediately does everything it can to break that setup right from the start. And every time it does something that in another show would be a cheat, it uses it to form a bigger world, and it's really quite impressive. I've been kind of blown away with it.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, I watched that first episode. It wasn't really great, but I'm a huge fan of a YouTube channel called Wisecrack.
Right.
And they have done repeated episodes addressing the different philosophies in Rick and Morty, and they do this with other shows too, and it's one of my favorite series that they do. The problem is that I'm 100% impressed by the show's ability to convey these ideas, but all the philosophies they talk to are ones that I find incredibly irritating.
Right.
Which further pushes me away from wanting to watch this show.
I can totally understand that, but in practice, the way it tends to come about in the show is first as a joke, and then later on as a reminder that they didn't forget that they did that thing. Does that make sense?
Right.
And for that, it plays out. There are some really great premises throughout the show. Probably my favorite, and I think it's to me, I think it's probably the best episode in the entire series. Not the funniest and not the most ridiculous, but the best solid. And it's how kind of interesting the science fiction is, even while it's being kind of a dumb Family Guy joke type show. There's an episode where Rick's space car won't start, and so he decides he has to fix the battery. And he gets the battery out, and he shrinks Morty and himself down to a teeny tiny size so he can see what's wrong with the battery, and they go inside. And when they get inside, there's this whole massive world. And he explains to Morty that the way he generates electricity for his car is he shrunk a teeny tiny universe and waited till it evolved light. And then he went and told the people in the universe, he gave them a little box that they have to step on, and when they step on it, it generates electricity. But he told them that like 80% of the electricity is really dangerous waste electricity, and they have to channel it out. So he built this huge society that all the time is working to generate electricity, but 80% of all the electricity they generate on the entire planet is going out to power his car.
Okay.
And then it turns out the reason they've stopped generating electricity and the battery stopped working is their greatest scientist has invented an alternate power source. And when they go to him to find out what it is, he's got a little box where he's trapped a little universe, and he's gone into the universe and told the people inside that they have to generate electricity. And so it's this cycle of going through deeper and deeper boxes until he tries to reach a point where they find someone who hasn't yet generated electricity. They haven't yet created another box, but they're planning on creating another box, so he can tell the scientist from the universe he created that it's unethical and convince him that it would be unethical, so he'll stop doing it, so they have to use the other boxes so that they'll go back to generating electricity for him, even though Marty keeps telling him it's unethical. It's this really monstrous loop, but the concept of it is fascinating. It's a really surprisingly good show. But the first, I don't remember what the first episode is, but the second one was it was about a super intelligent dog, and Rick and Morty kept going into deeper and deeper dreams, and that one was terrible. At that point I was like, I'm done with the show. But I'm glad I went back to it, because the longer you watch, the more insanely it elaborates and the bigger it gets. And it's really worth actually sticking with. I can really recommend just trying to get past that beginning till you get into the pattern of things. Even if, I know this sounds kind of stupid, but even if you don't love it on an episode-to-episode basis, watching the direction it goes in is kind of fascinating. So I'd suggest giving it a go.
It's one of those shows where I feel like, yes, granted we're not prolific or anything like that, but we do a pop culture show every week, and we exist in the internet world. I almost feel like I've almost been neglecting a responsibility not watching that show, considering how popular
I know what you mean.
How many memes there are, and it's so yeah. I will get around to it. I know I will.
What I would say is, put that out of your mind when you watch it, because it's actually better as a science fiction show than it is as a dumb comedy. Surprisingly. The combination of the two works, but it is better as that science fiction show. It's that combination of the two that makes it. And hello, by the way, to Redhead Edition, who says that's a great episode. Who is, I know, a big Rick and Morty fan.
Hello, Redhead. Alright, Rick and Morty.
Seriously, check it out. Dig into it. Particularly also enjoy the Mr. Meeseeks episode, which is...
oh, that's another one everyone keeps on fucking talking about. Meeseeks. Okay, alright.
It is really pretty great.
Alright. Well, I have been playing a game recently.
I'm astonished to hear this.
It's a game that from day one, when I first saw the footage of it, I was on board. And I had to kind of try to temper myself, because, I saw the E3 footage, I was like, oh, okay, I mean, this is really cool looking, but is it going to be like this? And you saw more promotional stuff, and more promotional stuff. And every cycle where they released more footage of this game, I got more and more excited about it, but I was still in that mode where it's like, okay, well, I've been had before.
Right.
I bought No Man's Sky opening day, which has now become kind of my standard for disappointment. Was I as disappointed with this as I was with No Man's Sky?
I loved how long you tried to hold on.
I tried. I really did. And I think I mentioned in an episode, as disappointed as I was, I will not say it's a bad game, because No Man's Sky still captured something for me that I really, really enjoyed.
No, I agree.
It just wasn't enough.
I hold on to the judgment of No Man's Sky that the biggest problem was that it was actually a very small game marketed as a very big one.
Right. But this game is a big game, marketed as a big game, and is a big game. It is
Big,
Horizon
the game,
Zero Dawn.
Starring Tom Hanks.
Bink.
Shut up, Tom! That's an old
God damn,
reference.
Tom, get back in your shell. Yeah, that's a very old reference. It always goes back to episode 5 of our show?
Something like that.
Yeah. But no, I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, which I finally got the goddamn name right.
Hey!
It's good. God, it's really good. And it was one of those things where when it was coming out, it came out around the same time as Breath of the Wild.
Right.
And I think Horizon outsold it, but Breath of the Wild definitely captured the press more than Horizon.
I think Breath of the Wild ended up outselling it in everywhere except the U.S. And then I think Horizon outsold it in the U.S. I know Breath of the Wild certainly outsold it here.
Right, so Horizon outsold it in America, which means it outsold it everywhere, because you guys don't matter.
You and your Zelda
No,
prejudice. Zelda was a great game. It deserved all the success it got.
Yeah, no, I can admit to that. But this game
Except when it
does...
was fucking raining. You spend half an hour climbing to the top of a hill. You 3 meters from the top and it starts to rain and you slide back down to the bottom. If you wait for a sunny day. Fuck you, Nintendo!
Let it out, buddy. Let it out.
That was the only thing I didn't
talking
like.
about
I
Horizon.
didn't care about the weapon durability as much as other people did, but that raining. Sorry. So, Horizon Zero Dawn, huh? How about those
Yeah,
robot
it's-
dinosaurs?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's kind of funny because of all the marketing that Horizon had, explaining how things worked, it still didn't quite explain what it was really like to play it. Because, like, it was one of those where I saw, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to come across robot dinosaurs and I'll fight them. I can hack and slash and, that sort of thing. But the game does not play like that at all. Every encounter you have, especially with the robots, becomes this sort of boss fight.
Right.
Now, as you get better and stronger and you upgrade, you can start taking down some of the smaller ones quicker. But every single one of these robots that you come across represent a huge threat because you are so incredibly squishy in this game. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, 2 hits will oftentimes kill you.
That's rough.
And yeah, it is very hard. And that's why I think I was talking to you earlier. The combat almost feels very Dark Souls-like because one, it's about recognizing pattern. 2, it's about using just what you have on you in different ways. And 3, it's a lot of dodging. A lot of dodging, a lot of rolling. Though I think that the big difference is that you have more tools at your disposal in Horizon. Right. But that's where the combat gets really cool because none of your gear exists independent of each other. You will always do better if you can find a way to use your equipment in combinations.
Right. That makes sense.
Like, for instance, you get, like, the trip caster, which lets down these tripwire traps. You have your bow, and you have your rope caster, which the rope caster, spikes them and then spikes them to the ground. Right? So, like, something that I do quite often in these scenarios is I'll lay down a bunch of tripwires in places that I'm trying to predict that the robot will go.
Yeah.
Once combat starts, because you can focus on them and see their AI paths. It'll just show you, like, this is the patrol path that it's taking, and you can use that to basically set up the scenario.
Do you have to follow them for a bit to see that, or does it just automatically, like,
Nope.
is it just like intuition?
Nope, you hit a button and it everything turns like purplish, and then you have to kind of set your reticle on the robot for a little bit, and then it'll
without going into too much in the spoiler way, is there a story explanation for the robot animals?
Yes. Yes. Well, okay. I'm not incredibly far into the game yet, so I have not got an explanation of the animals yet. But there has been story explanation for like the ability to like focus in on them and see their weak points and see the paths that they take.
See, somebody I know who played it compared it to, did you ever that TV show, The Tripods?
No.
There used to be a TV show called The Tripods. It was a series of books. I think it was it probably was a British TV show from the 70s, where
Sounds very
these aliens that walked around in giant tripods like War of the Worlds, had taken over the Earth, but they'd forced people to wear these, basically when everyone came of age, they were lobotomized, so that their minds were simplified, if you know what I mean. So the humans were living in, like, serfdom, while the aliens controlled the society, basically. And it was about these kids who managed to escape before they came of age and had the surgery done, that went away to form a resistance, basically. And someone said the world that it's set in is kind of like that. That kind of makes sense?
Maybe. From what I've seen so far, that's not.
Come on, John, give me a comparison for the game you've barely played to the TV show you've never heard of. Weigh it up for me.
There's robots.
Okay. I can live with that. I like robots.
No, okay, so in terms of like story so far, like I said, I'm pretty early into it, and so everything in story-wise is still in this sort of folklore state.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, it's hundreds, maybe thousands of years in the future. The robots have taken over, humanity has kind of got wiped out, and nature has reclaimed the planet. Right? Everything's in ruins, all, civilization just exists as these burned out rubble, overgrown. So it has to be very, very far in the future. And humans have learned to survive by basically
You'll get to the end.
Together into.
You'll get to the end, right, and it'll go 3 years earlier, and there'll just be footage of Donald Trump at his inauguration.
Yeah. We're gonna make America great again. Cut to giant walking giraffe robot. It exists in this folklore thing because all the humans have kind of banded together into these tribes. Very clearly reminiscent of Native American tribes, but also just kind of Aboriginal tribe in general.
Right.
There's kind of hints of like Nordic tribes or like Neanderthal sort of situations, and all their explanations for what's happening is all very grounded in mythology.
That makes sense.
But in a funny way, the technology still plays a very prominent role in their society. Because like the tribe that your character is kind of a part of, they keep on worshiping the All Mother. They keep on referring to the All Mother, the goddess, this sort of thing, and the society in general is all very matriarchal. Women control the society, so much so that the governing body is a group called the matriarchs. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, why? For all intents and purposes, I mean, if you think this is sexist, I'm sorry. But generally with these kind of primitive tribes where everyone relied on hunting and kind of feats of strength to survive, that's how males became dominant, right? Because they're able to do these things, right? So it's like, why didn't this happen this time?
I'm saying nothing, people at home. I'm saying nothing. This is all on John.
You can say whatever you want. You know I'm right.
Direct your hate mail to him and him alone.
This is not a statement of right or wrong. It's a statement of, it's an anthropological statement.
Saying nothing.
So that's actually the question I had in my head. Like, okay, how did it come to be that this became a matriarchal society? Like, what was the evolution? And you realize there is a reason behind it, and they tell you what the reason is.
All the food, right, is on the other side of the lingerie department in the other, in the old ruined department store, and all the men are too shy to walk through on their own.
It's all sitting in the tampon aisle. But no, the reason is at a certain point they take you into this, they call it the living mountain sort of thing. But you realize it's an old research facility. And when you get there, you get scanned by this machine, and the computer voice talks to you, and it's a woman's voice. So these people had come across this research facility, heard the computer voice, it being a woman's voice, and assumed it was a god.
That makes sense.
Which is why they became... It's basically if they had come across Siri and thought, this is our god now. Siri is our god.
Wouldn't it be great if they got down there and it'd have been like... like
the
Stephen...
holy squiggle of metal.
It's been like one of those...
Yes, assist me in what I do, please.
It had been like Bonzi Buddy. Quick, get the trivia spawning ape.
Quick, get around, children. It's about to sing us a song.
Please enter your credit card details to unlock my full version. Ooh. Ah, the all monkey is done for the day, children.
Go forth, our scouts. Find what is known as a credit card. Only then will we be ushered into our paradise.
Father, the strangers wish to see our holy god. Show them in. Hello, this is our god, the all monkey. He sings songs. He organizes your dates for you. He reminds you and plays games with the children. He's your desktop pal. Worship
so
him or
Lord,
die.
So say it.
Would you like to play a game?
Yes, Purple Monkey, play your games. Teach us.
What wisdom do you have for us today? On this day in 1936, Tell us knowledge from the past.
Keeper of the archives.
Now, let us celebrate with tic-tac-toe.
Oh, it's a special day indeed, children. The most holy of games. Ticketh-tacketh-toeth.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of it. So
yeah,
is it good?
Yeah, it is good. I'm really enjoying it. The funny thing about it is it all... So, the last game I played before really diving into Horizon was Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda.
Right.
And I've said multiple times that I kind of was able to forgive the glitches and the technical issues and things like that. But seeing this game in action, it's like, no, how the fuck did EA screw this up? Right? How did they screw up Andromeda when Horizon was basically done by the Killzone guys, Guerrilla? It was the first time they ever did a game like that. They built an engine from scratch. There's no established story. There was no resources that they could mine from other games. No assets. Nothing. All the design had to be original. And they nailed it. They fucking nailed it. So I'm retroactively upset at Andromeda because of this game. Right?
Do you ever watch cartoons and be like, hey, Disney, with the millions of dollars, made this film I like, and your cartoon sucks.
Right.
No, what was the budget?
the
I'm
thing.
guessing the budget on Andromeda must have been pretty high, right?
I imagine, yeah.
Andromeda has a lot of
I
weird
can't-
issues, right? Like, I was reading that a lot of Andromeda's issues come about because they used some kind of automated animation thing that would, rather than animating
Yeah.
things by hand, if you know what I mean, they were basically relying on an algorithm to hear what people were saying and lip sync and things.
Yeah, it was like Speed Tree for faces.
Right, which, when you think about it, if it produces those kind of results, and they must know, because they must do a lot of tests, right? If my opinion is, if you're charging $60 for a game, and you charged $60 for a game 10 years ago where you did all the animation by hand, you could do all the animation by hand now. Fuck you. You know, do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, especially when you're dealing with an established franchise that's beloved, take the goddamn time and just fucking make it. Like, don't spend your resources to make a robot that's going to do it for you. Like,
They'll just add in a patch. They'll be like,
fans
we've
deserve better."
we've heard your concerns about the Mass Effect Andromeda lip syncing and animations, so we've added a patch that clears this up for you. You play the game again and it runs a cutscene at the beginning that says, here in the Andromeda Galaxy, where a time warp makes our faces go all wibbly, and then everything else is just the same.
I'd buy it. I'd be like, okay, whatever.
Man, it all makes sense now. The faces went wibbly.
But no, back to Horizon though. It's so far it's been a really compelling game. It's just how well fleshed out the world is really nice to see. Like there was a lot of care given to making sure that everything fits right.
Right.
Which is something I really love. Because it's not cheap in any way either. Because they could have done the really lazy approach where it's like the Great Cataclysm, and they just keep on referring to that shit.
Right.
But what they do is they reference whenever you come across like old logs or audio logs or things like that. What they're doing, they're actually referencing moments that haven't happened yet in the real world. Like there's references like to 2067 and 2078. So they kind of did this thing where they invented a mythology based on fictional events that are based on presumptions of what's going to happen from where our society is now.
Well, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's really neat because like they like I'm starting to find more stuff, and like one of the things that they keep on referencing is virtual space, things that are happening in virtual space. Do they apply to human rights? Right. A lot of the logs I keep on coming across, and there's a big article basically saying that at one point the U.S. government cracked down and arrested 800 people who staged a virtual protest in a virtual space. So, like, does freedom of speech exist within virtual spaces? And it references stuff like that, which are things that we talk about now.
Yeah.
And but like that seems to be a big theme of a lot of these logs is how the society that existed when the fall happened, how they were dealing with the idea of virtual space.
Do you think?
And
Do you think when the fall came, and a few years later, when they were all living on their farms while robot animals attacked, they just went, "I've wasted so much time thinking about this." Like, literally none of it matters now.
well, I mean that's kind of
We
the
live on a
heart of-
farm.
I mean that's kind of like the heart of all like post-apocalyptic stories, isn't it? Like once the apocalypse happens, all the petty little shit that we've been discussing and going over, but doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know?
I want to see the guy who, like, when he found out that NASA was going to go land on the moon, was told to, like, draw up the viability studies for putting... You know that someone had to draw up for the government a viability study about putting, like, a base there, you know? And they had to do all the research, do all the maths about, you know, once... Because they didn't know that that was going to be the last step in the space race, really, you know? They
Right.
thought it was going to continue being this big thing with Russia till they got there and realized it was a big waste of time. But, you know, there must have been a guy whose job it was to coordinate, like, okay, once we get to the moon, we see if it's possible, and then the next ship's going to take, like, the first supplies for the things. And, you know, he puts in, like, years of his life, and then when they get there, they just go, well, we went up there. Should we go again and
Well, I mean,
live there? Nah.
Well, I mean, it's like all the people who worked on search engines before Google hit.
Right.
You know?
Hey,
Like
hey,
the
we got
Lycos
this.
guy.
Was a great story. Have you ever seen? There's a TV show based on an old character called Hornblower. Horatio Hornblower, who was a fictional character in the... I think he was written in like the 1930s, but he was a Napoleonic era British Navy officer, and the stories are like adventure stories of him captaining ships. And anyway, they made a TV show of it in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember watching an interview with Paul McGann, who was in it, actually. He was the Eighth Doctor, but he was in this show. And he was saying about when they used to film this show, what they did was they got a reconstruction of a ship from that period, right? But it would be on the coast. They wouldn't go out to sea to film. That would be ridiculous. They would put it on the coast, and they would film always from the side facing the ocean. That pretty simple way of doing it.
Right.
First day of filming, they're doing it all day, and then eventually someone says, okay, we've been looking at the footage, and there's actually a problem. It's really, really obvious the ship's not at sea, because it's not moving, you know, there's no bobbing at all to it. And then he says, so they sat around, they worked out how to do it, and the director says, okay, while we're filming this scene, periodically could you all try and just sort of bend your knees every now and then? just do your scenes perfectly normally, but try and bob up and down. So they told everybody to do this, and he said we did this for about a day, and then they came back the next day and like, okay, look, the footage is all wrong because none of you are doing like coordinated bobbing. So everyone's bobbing at a different time. So on day 3 they try to coordinate the bobbing, and then at the end of day 3 the cameraman says, you know, I could just do this, and he tilts the camera up and down. He says, I could just film like this.
All right, we have a question in the chat. Worst cartoon ever?
That's from... Oh, Gavin, worst cartoon ever. Good
Yeah.
question. I might need a moment to think. Do you have an answer?
Not yet. So I just want to say, wrap up on Horizon Talk. It's a really good game. I think people should give it a whirl. It's a really, even without like the setting and the story, it's a really fun game just for the mechanics. You know, the crafting and the hunting. It's not boring. It never gets boring. So
there is something I do want to ask before we stop talking about this subject specifically. in the past we've talked about open world games, and I quite enjoy them, but I know that you have not been a big fan of the ones with lots of subquests and stuff, because we've talked about this before. You feel like there's just too much to do, right? And it's like there's content out there you could never play. Am I right? That's
right? Yeah.
How does this compare to games that have made you feel like that in the past? Because it is a fairly big open world game, right?
Yeah. So far, it hasn't felt too overwhelming to me at all. The quests themselves are pretty quick to do, but I can kind of see how if it keeps adding to it, it's going to start to get to me. Because right now, it's a lot of the quests that I'm coming into, even now, where I feel like I've kind of gotten to like the quarter way mark of the game. And that's just an assumption. I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like I've gotten there. They're still kind of introducing elements, very much like a Far Cry game, where it's like, oh, well, you have bandit bases you need to clear out, and then there's corruption zones where the robots in these are crazed and they don't act normally. You gotta clear those out. And a lot of the side quests so far are tied to those mechanics. But there have been a handful of side quests so far that are there simply to serve the purpose of painting the world more.
Right.
And so when they're given that sort of context, I don't mind side quests, even a lot of them, if they all serve a purpose to give me a better understanding.
See, I really liked how Breath of the Wild did this, where you really only have one quest, you know? And that quest is divided into 4 kind of acts. Go get the ancient beasts, and then go defeat the baddie. Then everything else you do, you can do it, and you can add it to your list of things to do. But pretty much your only other quest is go do shrines to strengthen up, you know? And then there's a lot of other stuff to find in the world, but they aren't just dots on the map. They're just things that you might happen to see in the world, which might have a benefit if you pursue it.
Right, and that's kind of how this is going as well. Because while there are things like the corruption zones and the bandit bases, there's also like ruins. You can come across ruins, and based on the story so far, like these things have always been forbidden. Like,
right.
No one lets them. No one's supposed to go into them. But because of the special role that your character inherits, she is now given permission to venture into these ruins, and it's the ruins that give you the most information about the past.
That makes sense. So I think I have my answer to Gavin's question. I think the worst...
I'm going to grab myself another cup of coffee.
Oh, okay. John's gonna go. Should I answer the question, or should I just wait until he gets back and slowly talk? John's gone away now. I can't answer the question without John here. How will we talk about him? I don't know if he can hear me. I can still hear him. What you doing, John? Can you still hear me, John? Getting coffee, John?
Got my coffee!
Hooray! I really hope that echo doesn't come through. Okay, so here's what I think the worst cartoon is. The 1989 Police Academy tie-in cartoon. You ever seen that? It's pretty bad. I don't think he's back. Are you back, John? I thought he was back. Hello, everybody. We live stream these now, so they don't really work when John disappears like this. How are you guys, by the way? Remember to submit your questions. We are live streaming the show. You back?
I'm back, and I realized what the problem is.
What?
I am still streaming through my headset mic and not the mic that I, my good mic that I set up.
Oh, well, that's fine.
So
You'll be okay.
I'm gonna try to fix that real quick.
Okay. Are you sure you shouldn't wait until just next week?
Nope.
All right. Well, I will talk about what I think is the worst cartoon. In 1989, there was a Police Academy cartoon, and like a lot of cartoons from the late 80s, mid 90s, it was designed just to sell toys. And for people who are maybe a little bit younger than John and I, you probably actually won't remember how big and also how awful Police Academy was, even when we were kids. Like, it started in the 80s. I was born in 1987. And it was still pretty huge. Like, the last Police Academy film was 1994. And they were all pretty bad.
Is that the Moscow one?
Yeah, Mission to Moscow. 94. Didn't have very many of the original cast in. I think, like, Tackleberry was in it.
Winslow was probably in it.
Yeah, and then it had that kid who went on to be in, what was that show about the medical examiner? Quincy. Do you remember Quincy?
Yeah.
He was in that for a while. So there was a Police Academy cartoon in 1989, and it was awful. And yeah, that's it was even worse than the very short-lived Police Academy the series. And that was the worst ever cartoon, I'll give you that. What's your answer, John?
Well, by the way, how does my voice sound now?
Lovely. Rich, smooth like butter. Gives me a tingling in my loins that only your expensive mic can provide.
Oh, yeah.
Or it might be this poorly wired electrics that I've got connected to the laptop.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the poorly connected electrics you have connected to your nipples.
Well, that wouldn't give me a tingling in my loins, would it?
It depends on how strong it is.
So, while we're on the subject of Police Academy... I just want to say, I want to go back to Police Academy after you give your answer.
I never thought I'd hear uttered.
Yeah, you give your answer, and then I want to go back to Police Academy for a second.
Okay, this is going to be a controversial decision because for some reason people love this show. I always hated it as a kid. Reboot.
Oh, I liked Reboot. I mean, it wasn't...
You would.
It wasn't good. But I think it had potential. I think it had some interesting stuff. It certainly got carried on its animation. You know?
Yeah, and here's the problem why it was such a terrible fucking show. There are episodes where literally nothing happens. No action, no... nothing. No story plot. It'd just be like, oh, hey, guess what, guys? We're all hanging out at the Virtua Joe
It was very
Cafe.
quaint. It was a very quaint show. Like, the premise was that they were in a computer, right? And it was owned by someone who played games, and when the games would come down, all the characters would have to interact in the games, and they were basically trying to survive the games when they would start, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I saw it.
Right. But there was episodes where there's no games.
Yeah. Yeah, and they had, like, Megabyte would do things.
Yeah.
It was very impressive visually for its time. But yeah,
Sure, I'll give them that.
It wasn't a great show.
No.
All right, Police
it
Academy.
It holds up like Tron holds up. You know?
Yeah, I think so. I think Tron 2 is very good, and I watched Tron in preparation for Tron Legacy when I watched that for the first time, and Tron does not actually hold up that well. Like,
No, it
you watch it
doesn't.
and you can tell it's a
God,
classic.
it drags.
Yeah, it's very, very long, and unlike Reboot, the animation doesn't still look impressive for its time. Like, I'm sure it was impressive for its time, but when you look at Reboot, you could be like, wow, look at everything they were doing with that back then. When you look at Tron, you're like, my eyes! Oh, I don't want to look at it anymore.
Like, oh god, it's all black and white. How did no one notice it's black and white?
Have you seen Tron Legacy, though?
I think I started watching it, and I never finished it.
That is a really good film. Amazing soundtrack. It's really great to watch in 3D, actually, because it's not 3D until they get into the grid.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's a nice touch. It's got kind of a Wizard of Oz to it. Yeah, that's okay. Fair enough. Reboot. I can give you that.
All right. Well, we
Police
have
Academy.
one more question. We have another question.
We'll get to that.
In
Police
the chat.
Academy.
Okay, Police Academy.
What is your general opinion on the Police Academy films? Because
Fucking terrible.
I have kind of a love-hate relationship with them.
I like the first two.
I like the second one a lot. I don't think the first one holds up as much as I thought it did when I was younger. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think the second one's really good. I actually think I think 6 is very good. City Under Siege.
I honestly don't think I saw any other ones except 1 and 2.
I can recommend 6 because 6 is it's so terrible like as a franchise and it should never have got to 6. But 6 takes a different style to the sense of humor that actually works. It leans more into kind of like the Naked Gun spoof, you know?
Okay.
And kind of pulls it off. But the reason I was asking about this was somebody said recently they were making a new Police Academy movie. They were going to try and bring back that franchise, right?
Yeah, I heard about that.
But they were going to try and make it like a seriously, if you know what I mean. Like, it would still be a comedy,
Well, I
because
mean,
you couldn't do a Police Academy movie and have it not be a comedy, you know? But that they were going
Right.
to try and go for more like, what would be a good example? I'm trying to think of what would be a good example of something that... like a Scrubs sort of tone, but as a movie.
okay.
How do you think that would work?
You know, I don't think it would, because look, we've already seen them kind of blow it on other beloved films from the 80s, you know, and I mean, calling Police Academy beloved is a stretch, but you know, we saw what happened with Ghostbusters. They're doing the Baywatch one right now, and that looks fucking terrible.
It really does.
You know, they did the Dark Shadows thing, and that sucked. I mean, granted, that's from like the 70s, but you know,
And also,
I mean,
that's Tim Burton,
of
so
all
you sort of
these-
expect it to these days.
right. I mean, out of all the weird remakes that they've made, I think maybe the most successful one has been the 21 Jump Street.
Right, I haven't seen that. Last I heard, that was going to be revived as a crossover with Men in Black, which is such a weird choice.
Well, because 21 Jump Street, the movie, got really meta. Almost fourth wall breaking.
Right, that would make sense.
And they kind of leaned into it. Because there's a joke at the end of 22 Jump Street, like during the credits, where they keep on coming up with new concepts for them to do, and they'll flash the poster where it'll be like 26 Jump Street, semester at sea, 35 Jump Street, this time they're abroad, you know, and it keeps on showing. And he's not showing Ice Cube's character goes like, I'm sending you on a cruise. I'm sending you to France. And he keeps on, and I think I can't remember, but there is a joke that they really quickly slip in there where he goes like, I'm sending you to fight aliens. And so they do that. I think that's where they get that from.
Fair
so
enough.
I can see it working there. Making another Police Academy, it's not to use that old argument, but why? You know, what do they hope to accomplish with it? You know,
See, the ultimate issue I have with it is, and it's the issue I have with the Police Academy films in general. The first one kind of has a tone like Stripes, you know, that Bill Murray movie. Oh, he's in the army and he's a rebel, you know.
right?
But here's the thing that I think is, and okay, I like Brooklyn Nine-Nine a lot, right? So when I say this, that might sound like a stupid point, but there's nothing that funny about being a police officer. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not inherently funny, and so most of the jokes in Police Academy don't actually come from the fact that they're police officers at all. Like the guy who makes amusing sounds. He doesn't make amusing police-themed sounds that often. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that would be my argument why we don't need Police Academy, is that we have Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right.
Which is a funny show. You have these characters, they all have a certain archetype to them. They interact with each other, and they use that to make the humor. Where it's, you have the super buff sergeant with Terry Crews, who's also kind of a softie.
Do you know what Police Academy movie I would take? Do you know what I would take? I would absolutely take a Police Academy movie done like the Brady Bunch movie, where you've got if you could get the original cast of the original Police Academy movies, get Steve Guttenberg back, right? And do the plot of, they've escaped from the movie, or they've come from another parallel dimension, right? You know what I mean? And they have to come through into a world where everyone thinks the Police Academy movies are total shit and they're all incompetent, terrible people.
No, you know what I want to see?
I would watch that.
I want to see the Police Academy crew coming through into like the real world, and then have to deal with like,
actual crimes.
It's like, have you heard about this whole Black Lives Matter business and police brutality? That's what I want to see. I want to see them have to deal with like the legit problems.
And Bobcat Goldthwait's like, it's a farce. I don't know what to do. I'm under so much pressure. Can't just arrest someone anymore.
Like I want to see the guy who makes all the voices get profiled and arrested, even though he is a cop. It's like, oh, I don't think you belong in this neighborhood.
Yeah. That'd be great. No, I'd like that. All right, we can do the question now. I don't mind. I just wanted to see what you thought about the idea of a new Police Academy movie, which I think is a terrible plan.
Yeah. So, Zate6 asks, if you had to be stranded on an island and could only have 5 items, not including food and water, what would it be? So, any 5 items.
Yeah, I always think these
5 items.
I always think these are pretty simple. I would bring. It depends on what you class as an item, right? Is an item a thing you can describe in a single word, or does something become too complex to be an item, right? Because
I would bring a teleporter.
Well, there's that one as well. But okay, even if you limit it to things that have to exist, I would bring a very high-powered radio.
Right.
I would bring
a satellite phone,
an oil generator, and a drum of oil. A map with the coordinates of where I am right now on there, and
I would bring a fully stocked cruise ship.
Right. I would bring the planet Earth to the exact place of the existing planet Earth, rotated so that I'm not on that island.
Oh, okay. Here, Zate even elaborates. Says, no, like the internet could be an item. Yeah, I'll bring the internet with me and a tablet to use.
Yeah.
Like, help, I'm here. Use the GPS location. Like.
Right, and even if you rule out things like this, you could be like, I would bring a house, a prefab building. And
I mean, okay, so. Here's the issue with the question in general, and no, I'm not trying to diss the question at all, because it's one of those classic questions. That question worked so much better, like before technology, or not before technology, but like it doesn't work nowadays because. Technological progress has brought us to a point where if I can choose what I bring with me, I can get off that island, right? Yes, I understand there's still people who do get stranded on islands, but they don't get to choose their items, right? Like, satellite phones exist. I'll bring one of those, right? Ultralight airplanes exist. I can bring one of those.
And a manual on how to fly it.
Right. Solar panels exist. I can bring one of those. You know. So,
Yeah, technology's really changed these hypothetical questions. You know what technology's really ruined? You know what the cell phone has really destroyed? Pushing people into the pool for a joke.
yeah. People get pissed.
It says, man, do I feel like a dumb butt? Yeah, John, be nice to our questioners. You don't have to humiliate the man.
Like, you're one to talk about being nice to your audience. Fuck you, Owen. Fuck
I'm
you.
nice. I'm nice. I'm Blast says, hey everyone, what about if you were stranded on an island, had a CD player, and had only 3 albums? What would they be? I know what yours would be. Mumford and Sons. Number 2.
I didn't like number 2 actually. Babel. I didn't care for that one.
I tell you what, I'll pick the albums for you, and you have to pick the albums for me. And we
Sure.
can see how well
Okay.
we do. But we're trying to try and get nice ones. We're trying to get it right, okay?
Okay.
I'm not gonna
actually try to get it right.
I'm not going to try and pick
Okay.
like ones that I know you like, but I'm going to try and pick what I think would give you like a good time, okay?
All right.
I'm going to go with a Mumford and Sons, but you can have a Mumford and Sons of your choice, just because I'm nice, right? Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, because you want a classic, but not an oppressive classic. You know what I mean? You want a classic, but not one where everything's like really overplayed, and plus you get a movie theme there, so you can remember movies when the nights get long. And I have to pick you a third one. And Kate Bush's Greatest Hits, because sometimes you want a female vocalist in there just to shake it up, and she's got a hell of a voice. There you
I don't
go.
even know who Kate Bush is.
What? She did. Okay, maybe she's too British, Kate Bush. I'll pick a different one. You see, if I could just torture you and say you could have Cyndi Lauper. I like Cyndi Lauper.
I don't mind
okay.
Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, see, the third one's tricky. The first 2 are great. You get 2 good ideas in there, and then your third one comes. All right, I'll tell you what. You can have David Lee Roth.
Ugh.
Eat 'em and die.
Oh.
I didn't even give you Skyscraper.
Bastard.
That's a great album, actually. Eat 'em and die. There you get some classic rock and some classic prog rock and some Mumford and Sons to remind you how terrible your life is.
I can dig it. Let's see here. So I got to pick 3.
Yeah.
Well, I know 1, all right, but I don't know if it counts. Because I remember it was a box set.
A box set of 100 songs of assorted genres and styles.
No, okay, just bear with me. I remember because it was kind of a famous, not a famous box set, but it was. I remember seeing it everywhere. But it was the Queen Greatest Hits box set where it had the 2 CDs.
Oh, I
it came
remember
in
that one.
Like hunter green case.
Yeah, from when they were doing the reissues of a lot of that greatest hits stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the inside it was black. There was a black CD and a red CD.
Yeah, I remember that. It was pretty classy, nice one.
Yeah. Okay.
They did one
So
a
that's
little
what I
while
picked for you.
afterwards that was they did one a little while afterwards that was very similar, but it was greatest hits 1, 2, and 3 as well.
So,
But yeah.
so that's the one I'd pick for you first one.
Oh, that's very nice. I like Queen.
Okay. Now the second one I would pick. Now, I know you're a fan, but I'm not sure which one's your favorite. So I'm gonna pick my favorite because I think we both enjoy this singer. I'm gonna pick Bob Dylan, "Blood on the Tracks."
Oh, that's a good album.
Right.
And it's not like you would get bored of Highway 61 revisited after a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got all the hits on, but it just has all the hits on. You can remember the hits if you need to. Sit down and sing them.
But yeah, Blood on Track really. I think Blood on Tracks is the most diverse of his albums.
It's certainly
You
the
get songs.
best.
You get songs like
It's certainly the best of his albums post his initial explosion. You know, up to Highway
Right.
61. Like you could debate all the other ones, but of the kind of second half of his career, it's absolutely the best. And so I think it represents a more mature Dylan. You know.
because you got songs on there like "Shelter from the Storm," which has a very like a Rolling Stone sound to it. It's very rambling. It goes on and on, and it's full of very obtuse and abstract imagery.
If I hadn't
to
said
it,
we have to
which
actually
is-
try and get it right, you'd have given me self-portrait, wouldn't you?
But it also has stuff like
in the sun. Where we gonna get
Lily,
it?
Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts on it.
Isn't Tangled Up in Blue on Blood in the Tracks?
Yes, it is.
It's a good song.
Or yeah, Take 'Em Up as Blue is on there. Not It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. That's on. Which one is that on? Yeah. Anyway, so third album. I'm gonna go with Muddy Waters, The British Sessions.
Oh, there we go. That's a nice one. I like Muddy Waters.
Yeah. So, there's my three.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, you got your arena rock with Queen. You got your folk rock with Bob Dylan, and you got your blues with Muddy.
No, I think you did better than me.
You're damn right I did.
I couldn't think of a third one. Hey, you like Tubular Bells? Oh, God, do you know, I don't even know anything on Tubular Bells except for the Exorcist theme. I can't sing it; it's difficult.
No, if I had to revise your list for me, in the same vein that you said, the second, like I like the Mumford and Sons, and then the second one having like a classical sound. I would have gone with like a best of Percy Grainger. He's one of my favorite composers, Australian composer from the 1800s. Very rare to have Australian composers.
It's because they're busy drinking.
And wrestling kangaroos.
Hello, Australian people. How you doing?
Percy Grainger. It's Australian for composer. And then the third one having a female vocalist, I probably would have gone with Fiona Apple's second album. The one with the giant poem for a title.
That'd be good. What is that full title? Like they normally just call it oh, I've forgotten completely.
I'm gonna look it up, all right?
Blaz has got an
I'll
interesting
read it,
question.
actually.
Blaz's question is, you are stranded on a desert island that has all the natural resources to survive. You get to pick two people to be there with you, but then he's got two sub-versions. The first is, version 1, pick one horrible person for your co-presenter, and then another good person. So I think, basically, we're both stranded on a desert island, and I have to pick one terrible person to accompany you and one good person? Oh no, I see, right. I have to pick one horrible person for you and one nice person for you, and then I have to pick two people for myself. And then vice versa. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Is
Sure.
that what you read it, you tell me if you think I've got that right.
Okay. Okay, version 1, pick one horrible person for your co-presenter. Oh, we're co-presenters now. I like that. It's classy. And another good person. So yeah, so the version 1 is pick one horrible person for me and a good person for me. And then version 2 is you just pick two people for yourself.
Okay. Let's see. Okay,
Right.
well, I'll get your good person first.
Okay, well, before we move on, I do want to read the full title to Fiona Apple's second album. God, we are all over the place today, aren't we?
We really are. I'm so out of it this week, I don't really care.
Okay, now bear with. This is something. All right. Now remember, this is for those of you who don't know, Fiona Apple is an American singer, And her second album has, I think, maybe the Guinness World Record of the longest title for the album. But he goes, when the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king. What he knows throws the blows. When he goes to the fight, and he'll win the whole thing. For he enters the ring, there's nobody to batter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your own hand and remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you know where to land. And if you fall, it won't matter because you'll know that you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done, Fiona Apple.
I think I have your 2 people picked.
Is one Fiona Apple?
No. I got your good person first, and I'm doing this because I love you, John, okay?
Okay.
Trapped on a desert island with all the resources you need. First person I'm giving you is...
Please be who I think it is.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes! Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, please let it be.
And then the other person is... Eric Andre.
You bastard. You bastard. You know, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm sure there's rocks, heavy rocks I can use.
Yeah. You want to explain that one to the people at home?
Yeah. So Rosario Dawson is my celebrity crush. I have adored her for many, many years. And she's one of those actresses for me where it just kind of keeps getting better. Like I feel like I have a pretty narrow selection of things I really enjoy. I love comic books and comic book movies and TV shows, and now she's a main character in a bunch of comic book TV shows, all the Netflix shows. I really enjoy the films of Kevin Smith. She was in Clerks 2. You know? And when it comes to attraction, I tend to be attracted to women of color. You know, I don't really get into blonde hair, blue eyed white women. So yeah, Rosario Dawson is absolutely beautiful to me. So Eric Andre, on the other hand, is the motherfucker who's dating her right now.
Came together so perfectly. I was thrilled. So do you want to do mine and then we'll do the good people?
Sure, yeah. My choices for you are Jeremy Corbyn and his wife. No,
No, are you
the
saying
same reasons.
Are you saying I want to fuck Jeremy Corbyn or his wife? I just
You know
it's
what?
sad because if I slept with his wife, I'd be out of the Labour Party.
No, God, who would I pick? So this is funny because I've long revealed more about myself on this show than you have about yourself. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stick with Jeremy Corbyn as the good person.
Yeah, all right. He'd be good in a fix. Unless we declared our island to have a national anthem, and then we'd be screwed. We might have some differences of opinion.
My second choice would be the girl you tried to hook up with in the field.
Oh, that would be the worst. I would come to live on your awkward island. I would move.
You can have her, Jeremy. All the fields belong to you.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go over there with the third wheel. My third wheel friend. And they'd be like, great, now he's brought a buddy.
So, you guys Got any other plans today? That aren't here?
You keep trying to take Eric for a secluded walk. Like,
Hey, I gotta show you something on top of this cliff real quick.
yeah, just that by those loose stones right on the edge. That'd be great. All right, 2 good people for myself.
2 good people.
I would take... See, we got all the resources to survive, but I guess it would still be pretty handy to just have someone like Bear Grylls,
Right.
in case we need to grill some bears.
Boo.
Oh, I know, but he's an idiot. Bear Grylls. Who's called Bear Grylls?
I don't know. Is that his real name, or did he choose it? Like, are you really gonna blame him for that? Like,
I'm looking him up now. I'm seeing if that's his real name. Edward Michael Bear Grylls. So actually his name's Ed.
never trust someone with 2 first names.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. Does that mean he's Teddy Bear Grylls? I hope people call him that.
No, because his name would have been Theodore.
Theodore? What do you mean? Oh, no, you can short Edward to Teddy.
That's a weird thing where, like, people call people who name John Jack.
Right, and Margaret to Peggy.
Yeah, or Richard to Dick.
Yeah, but that one makes a lot more sense when you meet people called Richard.
Looking at you, Edinburgh.
This obnoxious pseudonym. It's not even that one, it's the Jurassic Park one, Richard, but, no relation. That was an old podcast reference. Steve Attenborough, no relation.
Damn it.
His parent.
All right, so you want Bear Grylls?
Yeah, to do that, and then let's see. So that's someone helpful who can help me survive, and then yeah. See, when you've got Bear Grylls, well, oh no, you need someone to talk to for when Bear Grylls won't shut up about drinking his own pee. Who'd be good at doing the stuff Bear Grylls can't? Let's see.
I don't know. I don't know the extent of Bear Grylls' ability.
I take Mark Twain. That'd be a really terrible one as well, because you took Mark Twain. You'd be like, I take Mark Twain, then I'd have someone to always say, pithy quotes, things like that. Mm-hmm. And what you'd actually get is someone who thinks you're dumb as a brick and really resents you for bringing him to the island. So
right, you basically surround yourself with a literary genius and a survival expert. How long does it take before they realize you're not worth it?
Right.
It's like, all right, listen here, Mark. Oh, do tell now, Bear. I think we need to get rid of the Brit. All right. Oh, I think that's a splendid idea.
Hold on. Why does Mark Twain keep going? What's up, dog? What's that? Is Mark Twain?
He's like,
Mark Twain Bugs Bunny
or something?
Yeah. Oh, I knew I should have taken that left right at Albuquerque. Mark Twain.
I don't know. For some reason, I just had this idea of like old Southern gentlemen having like a lip smack thing.
Are you saying Mark Twain was a chinchilla? We're getting all the callbacks in today. It's working out really well.
Yeah, there we go. It's our new character, Mouse Twain.
And I picture him like a Speedy Gonzales cartoon, like all the other mice were asleep, Speedy's running around, taunting the cat, and then there's just that one mouse who's writing classic prose. Like, Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, who is also a mouse. It's my latest book.
Yeah, it's Huckleberry Mink and
All right, so those are my two, Mark Twain and Bear Grylls. Bearing in mind, Mark Twain probably won't be that useful, as he'll mostly be decomposed at this point. But who would you take?
It's funny. I almost had the very same thought process as you did. So I was trying to think of like someone who is a survival expert or like that. So I'm thinking like I don't know, like I can't think of like one, like a specific one, but like a Navy SEAL or something. You know, like some sort of like special forces guy. And then
Right.
the same thing, like I need someone.
Special Forces guy. Him, that famous, well-known...
But I also want someone who can like entertain me somehow. So I actually went with Paul Simon. Because he can sing, right? He can sing all his songs. I love Paul Simon, so he can sing all his classics and whatnot. But you gotta imagine, like, a guy who's been in the music business for that long probably has some pretty awesome stories to tell, right?
And when you get back, Art Garfunkel's like, nobody took me to an island.
You're like, hey, we're back. How's it going, Art? Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I have heard they still pretty much hate each other.
Oh, yeah, probably. You gotta imagine, like, like it all has to do with Paul Simon becoming famous and Art Garfunkel just being left in the dust, right? That has to be the, like, and like the catalyst for their hatred for each other. Where it's like, you know, Paul Simon's like, hey, Art, I decided to go do a solo album. People really like it. They you know, they're really into it. Oh yeah, Paul. I did a solo album too. Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's called
Do people like it?
I'm perfectly fine with Mondays. Successor to my other album, I Am Not an Orange Cat. Successor to my first debut album, Please Stop Sending Me Lasagna.
That's it, Garfield.
It doesn't even sound the same. My first hit single. No, you didn't say that. I just thought that'd be funny. If he just keeps getting letters from people.
Here, my newest album. No, Paul's not on this one.
No, I don't know when he's coming back.
My next album, he stopped returning my calls.
Actually, I just Googled it because I wanted to see the last time like either of them had commented on it, you know? And I got an article from 2015 that says, Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon, I created a monster. Because nobody wants to see Garfunkel anymore. They want Simon, I'm chopped liver.
Yeah. Garfunkel, the modern Prometheus.
Can you even think of a song that Garfunkel did on his own?
Fuck no.
You can call me
They're probably
Garf.
not good.
Do you think, like, because of how good Paul Simon's stuff is, I always imagine the writing process was like this, like, they went through lines, so they were like, Paul was like, okay, let's see what we got here. Are you going to Scarborough? No, it's got hints of that. It says, what you got, Art?
Right.
Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. What? Sorry, what was... Okay. I wish you not to the girl who was there. She once was a true love of... But okay, this is really not working.
Like, hey Simon, I got a new idea for a song. All right, man, let me hear it. All right, listen. Sheila, you're crushing my left ventricle. Oh, okay. Do you mind if I work out it a little bit? Yeah, man, just do what you want. All right. Yeah, well, I'll give you what I got in the recording studio.
Okay, I've got this other one. Coo-coo-ca-choo, floopy doopy doop, flipple dipple, schlibbly boopy doo, flabba-da-ba.
It's like, all right. We got this song written down. Miss Robinson. I got the first verse done. Why don't you come up with the second one? Yeah, okay. All right. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. I'm Art Garfunkel. I'm the other part of the band. Yeah, thanks, Art. Thanks. It's like, I'm just a poor boy. Oh, my story's often told. All right, what do you got, Art? I'm the other singer in the band. Look at me, I'm Art Garfunkel. Over here, please look at me. I'm talented, I swear to God. God damn it, Art.
The Simon and Garfunkel Wikipedia page is amazing because, like, the first paragraph's just like a summary of what they did. The second one talks a little bit about the rocky relationship. And then the third paragraph it says, afterwards, the duo went their separate ways, with Simon making unsuccessful solo records. And then it goes on. Yeah, that's what it says. Their debut Wednesday morning 3 a.m. Sorry, no, the duo met as children, right? And they did things as Tom and Jerry as the singer. It says that when they were teenagers, right? And then they went their own way. And Paul Simon went to make some solo records, and then they got back together, right? And then it carries on here, and then it gets... So it tells you that, right? And then they get back together, and it kind of sells it as, like, they got together, they went their separate ways, and Paul Simon didn't do very well, and then they realized they'd be back together. And then it catches up to 1970 with Bridge Over Troubled Water. It says, after that 1970 breakup following the release of Bridge Over Troubled Water, they both continued recording, Simon releasing a number of highly acclaimed albums, including 1986's Graceland. Garfunkel also briefly pursued an acting career, with leading roles in two Mike Nichols films, Catch-22 and Carnal Knowledge, and in Nicholas Roeg's 1980s Bad Timing, as well as releasing some solo hits such as All I Know. It goes to great attempts, like, to tell you everything that Garfunkel did, and it's 3 films I've never heard of. Well, right, I've heard of Catch-22. And 1 solo hit, and then the rest is about Paul Simon. Pretty great.
It's like section edited by Garfunkel fan 6969XX just blaze.
Poor Art Garfunkel. I want to know why he thinks he's created a monster, though. Maybe it's not related to Paul Simon, He's like, hey, I've been working since then. I've created life from non-existence. And everybody's like, yeah, so what's Paul Simon doing these days? Shut up!
It's like that Billy Bob Thornton album or interview.
Oh my god, that is my favorite interview in the world. Just the Beatles, where they got into music.
So tell us about Paul Simon. Oh, you're gonna ask Frankenstein why he decided to create life, huh? What if Paul Simon is the creation, like a legit creation, where Garfunkel's in this stony tower,
and they were a successful duo for a while, and then Paul Simon was like, "I need someone like me. Make me a wife, Garfunkel." He's like, "No, I won't bring another monster into the world. Then I'm going solo."
I made you a wife. Her name's Carrie Fisher. Oh, sorry. Too soon? But it's like that. It's just like lightning strikes down and it's alive! Alive! Speak, my creation, speak! Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Oh, he can't even write good songs. I'm gonna have to carry him through his career. Oh, God. How badly did we just alienate our entire audience by going on that rant about Simon and Garfunkel?
I'm really enjoying this article about Art Garfunkel. Listen to this. He is often described in terms of that goosebump-inducing voice of his, angelic, haunting, and so on. But when I ask him to describe himself, he says, "I'm a misanthrope. There is something in that, given what he will go on to say about his father, and Paul McCartney, and Paul Simon. But I would also add, eccentric. Take his habit of listing on his website every book he has ever read. You notice it's heavy shit, he says. It's not fluff." And it reminds, like apparently Art Garfunkel's there being like, alright, I gotta find a list of clever books I can say I've read.
He just copy and pasted like Time's 100 greatest novels of all time.
So funny. Art Garfunkel sounds like a massive nerd. He likes to do maths problems for fun. Now I know why Paul Simon went solo.
Yeah, great art. Yeah, you wrote another book. That's cool.
The next section.
We're going on tour.
The next section is about it's about meeting George Harrison, and he says, "George came up to me at a party once and said, 'My Paul is to me what your Paul is to you,' suggesting that they were both
depressing as hell.
Overshadowed." And now I just like the idea of like Art Garfunkel trying to persuade George Harrison into setting up a new Harrison and Garfunkel for the downtrodden, forgotten members of the band.
That's why Art Garfunkel thought for sure he was going to get invited to the Traveling Wilburys.
I would love that.
He just shows up for the first day of rehearsal, like, "All right, guys, here I am. Oh, hey, Art."
What we need is the other Wilburys, right? We need Art Garfunkel,
the stationary Wilburys.
Art Garfunkel, Ringo Starr,
the bassist from ELO that no one knows,
right? Flavor Flav.
And Jacob Dylan.
And the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury to cap it all off.
No! I'm stopping you right there.
That would be great, though, wouldn't it?
I've been looking for freedom.
And they're all playing different songs
at the same time. Well, not sure how long we've been streaming, but that seems like a show to me.
2 hours, 12 minutes, and yes. One thing I do want to talk about next week, because I was going to mention it, is, have you seen the trailer for The Orville?
The what?
The Orville.
No.
Seth MacFarlane's in a live-action TV show on Fox, and it's a parody of Star Trek that is landing before Star Trek Destiny does. And it looks kind of like
you mean?
Galaxy Quest. Discovery, yeah. It's landing before that is. And it's looking pretty funny. So, you should check out the trailer. And you all at home should check out the trailer. We'll talk about it next week. I'm thinking of watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I had this week other than that was I had a news article, but we can jump into that next week.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And check out the usual podcast information at notbiscuits.wordpress.com. Check out my YouTube channel by going to British Gamer, and John's Twitter account, which is at John C. Person. That's the one, isn't it? What else am I forgetting? Yep. This is not normally how we do this, have we? I've slipped into a broken routine here.
No, you're just taking control.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John. I don't really have anywhere to take that rant, but, enjoy it.
Just remember, at the end of the day, I'm Simon.
You wish you were Simon.
Can you imagine that Paul Simon often just played that game with Art Garfunkel? I don't know if that bass line is correct. I don't know if I'm going to change it, though. Simon says change the bass line. Yes, Paul. Yes, Paul. Yeah. What Owen said. You can find me on Twitter at John C. Person. You can go to my blog johncperson.wordpress.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at Not Biscuits. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, Not Biscuits. And yeah, check out the links below to check out our Discord channel, and I think that's it.
That's it.
Right?
See you later, guys.
Have a good one.